We are entering another new month, and I just wanted to say a great big thank you to every single one of you that have made this podcast a part of your routine every week. So many of you have sent us messages. You leave reviews saying how podcast has blessed or helped you. You are sharing this podcast, and you will never know how much that helps encourage me and the speakers to keep this podcast going. There is no community like a community of kingdom minded women running after their calling and purpose. Hello, and welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast, a space to enlighten, encourage, and empower you to go out and unashamedly be who God is calling you to be. I am your host, Jamie Herndon. I pray you hear less of me and more of Him as you listen to today's episode. Let's grow together. So we did the back to school sessions with young girls for the month of August, but I kept feeling like that we needed to hear from another young lady. I could not get away from it. So we are going to start September with her, and we can just call this the back to school bonus podcast. I have been there for just about, I think, every one of her big moments in life. Her birth, her first day of school, when she turned 10 and 13 and 16. We were already really close family friends, but then the Lord really just worked it out for us to be neighbors. And so now we laugh that I'm her neighbor mama. But when she can't get in touch with her actual mom, or if she needs something, I am, according to her mom, the legal guardian for anything that she needs if her mom's out of pocket, which we have had to actually use from time to time. This young lady makes me so proud. Honestly, she is a dream teen. I think every parent that knows her could agree with that. I'm hoping that she gives me a little bit of wisdom to help my kids turn out to be half of the young lady that she is. She's anointed, a prayer warrior, caring, so talented. I'm a big fan, so I could go on, but Mary Grace Pomeroy, I am so happy that you could just walk over and join me in person today. Welcome to the Unashamedly You podcast. Take a second, share a little bit about you, maybe some of your hobbies and some things that you have going on.
Thank you so much. I really am so honored that you asked me to be here today. I'm Mary Grace Pomeroy. I'm from FPCNLR. I live right next door to Jamie, like she said. I've been here my whole life. I'm the oldest of 6 kids, so I've got 5 little siblings. Pretty much everything I do is with my family. I love my parents. I'm really thankful for them because I know I wouldn't be here today at all without anything they've done. So my hobbies, really the only thing I could think of that I do is music related. I love to sing, play the piano. That's really it. Directing the choir has been my passion since I could walk. Um, so really music, everything music related is all I've ever done in my free time, and that's what I take seriously as well. I have, especially more recently, I've gotten more involved in our music department at church. And I love that. It's such an honor to work with all those people. They're so talented. And then we'll probably talk about this in a little bit, but our school as well. So when I was in 8th grade, I started playing main keys every chapel service every Friday. So I'm kind of I don't know if you call me the music director, but um, I play pretty much every week, sometimes direct the choir or sing, but I love it so much. So I'm actually in my senior year of high school. Um, I'm 17, and really, I'm excited to graduate, but every time I think about leaving school, I know what I'm gonna miss is the chapel services because that's really just been my passion and joy every week. You'll find me with a coffee. I might be running late to school, taking my sister and Jamie's daughter, Ada. They're best friends, so I drive them around. I'm basically their personal chauffeur. Um, You'll find us flying in the the school parking lot pretty late because we've decided to go to Starbucks on the way to school. Or Seven Brew. They beg me to take them every day after school. Can we please go get coffee?
And they're really aggravated when their personal chauffeur doesn't agree to take it.
It's their way, or they want to fire me. They can find a different chauffeur.
But they can't find anyone else, so too bad. I always tell Ada, I'm like, don't gripe too much about Mary Grace. If she ever tells you she's not your ride anymore, you're gonna need a pickle.
That's pretty much it about me.
So you did mention that you were involved in music. You love music. You're involved in the music ministry at FPCNLR. She is the music director for Calvary Academy for sure, our church school. How old were you when you actually first started playing the piano? I can't remember you not being involved in music, honestly. Like you said, since the time you could walk, you were leading choir. She has 6 siblings, or she has 5 siblings. She's the oldest of 6. So her siblings have all been a part of her choir, a part of her music team since before she was even involved in being able to actually do it. And what gave you the confidence to be able to play and sing in services the way you do? You're only 17 years old. No one really guessed that, but I got to thinking, I'm thinking, okay, she's 17, she's doing all this, but really you were doing it at 16, and then I think you were doing it at 15. Like, you've been doing this for a long time, being that involved in our services and in our music ministry, which I feel like FPCNLR, I don't have to wonder if I'm biased. I know that I am. But FPCNLR music really is top notch. And our MD, Brother Kurt Canhigh, he's pretty particular. Like,
Yeah.
he's not just going to allow anyone up there to be a part. And the fact that you're a part of our regular service music lets everyone know that you're actually really good. So tell us, how old were you when you started playing, and kind of go into what gave you that confidence to be able to do that?
So, actually, just kind of a little backstory. My dad's mom, she she passed away a few years ago, several years ago, but she was really I was talking to my aunt recently, and I don't know that I realized this, but she never really learned how to play the piano. She I think they moved to a church and they didn't have anyone to play. So she she had to learn because there was no one else. Her sister maybe played a little bit, they would sing. And so I really think she just prayed and the Lord just kinda gave her the ear for it. She never really learned any theory or anything. She really just played by ear. So she actually played the organ at our church when they moved here, but it just was in my family. So she taught all my older cousins as soon as they turned whatever age, I don't know. But I started taking lessons when I was 4, which now seems really little. I can't imagine now that I see 4-year-olds starting to learn. I'm like, I don't know how I picked it up then and, I was able to learn, but because I was really little. But I was 4 years old and I started taking lessons, and I just stuck with it really from then on, which it was really also another thing I think taken from my grandma really helped because it was a fun time we got to spend together. But yeah, I've always loved it. And another thing, before maybe even before I started taking piano lessons, I really don't remember, but I wanted to direct the choir so bad. I remember specifically probably I was around 1st grade, um, but I would sing all the time, which is funny now because I have one of my little sisters. Everyone says she's my twin, and I hear her singing around the house. I'm like, oh my goodness, she is so loud. And my mom would be like, you can't say anything. That's always been you. She's just acted like you. But I do every song they sang at church. I remember one time my mom said that I think I was late for church or something. I don't remember. But I, missed one of the kids' choirs. We had the kids' choir we still have every Sunday night, and I didn't get to hear the older kids' choir sing, and I was so upset because I needed to know what song they were singing so I could go home and direct that song. So, my poor little sisters, they would have to stand in my choir. One of them was really trying to get on me. She would sing the wrong part or something. I would be bossing her around. That is not right. One time, I remember my dad went to a garage sale and found me a bunch of those porcelain dolls on stands. So I was so glad because they could all stand up and do what they're supposed to do and be good. But that's really it all just kinda started like that. So as I started learning the piano, I really wanted to learn more songs so I could sing and play because I love to sing too. So I would sing and play the piano. And, another thing, really before I would sing, like in kids choir, from the time I could talk, I have videos, you can't even really understand what I'm saying, but, my mom would teach me scriptures, like, probably whole chapters, pretty much. Um And I would just memorize those, so we'd have the little 3-year-olds would get up on Sunday night, and before we sang, they'd let us quote our scriptures, and I would quote my big, long scripture. I had my princess voice I would talk in, and so I think that's kinda where it started really, 'cause if I knew my scripture so good, I wasn't really afraid to quote it, which now I kinda think about it, I'm still kinda shy. I feel like I'll do things now 'cause I'm used to it, but thinking back, I don't really know how I wasn't scared to do it, I'm sure I was, but, I just really didn't know any different, my parents were instilling that into me at such a young age, um, when I was 3 years old, and then as I would start going to the older kids' choirs, and I was always there, I would sing, and then I just started, singing verses in kids' choir, I quote my scripture and then sing a verse, and so I think that's really 'cause once I got to an older age, like, I've been doing it my whole life, so why would I stop, And that's still kinda what gave me the confidence. Just keep working at it, which sometimes I still don't feel confident at all. I'm like, "What am I doing?" But just kinda one step, after another, starting with the scriptures, started quoting the scriptures, and then I would start singing, and then as I got older, I'd get more harder things that I wasn't used to. Because once I got through kids choirs, once I joined the youth group, had youth services and all that I would play, sing for, um, and then church, regular church, once I don't remember how old I was, but a young teenager once I joined the big choir. So it's always been, you know, a new place is kinda hard, that's where it gets scarier, but, like I said, starting so young, it's like, "Why would I stop doing this now?" So, I really do think that's kinda what helped me still be able to do it, even though I don't always feel confident, but and then, of course, just praying, like, I pray all the time. I know Jamie said it, I've heard it before, but, like, "Lord, I can't do this by myself. I'm nothing." And, just praying that, even if he'll give me the confidence that I need to do whatever has been asked of me, even if I really don't feel like I can do it. Like, I remember the first time I played aux keys in church, main church. I've been playing main keys for our youth choirs and kids choirs and stuff, but I remember the first time I was scheduled to play aux. I was so excited, but I was terrified at the same time. I was like, "I could not play with all these grown musicians that they've played everywhere. They've played all over the world now." And I was just like, "I cannot do this." But, um, like I said, I just prayed, and really the Lord's always helped me, giving me the confidence I need to do whatever I've been asked to do.
One good thing, if it helps any musicians listening to this, most of the people in the audience aren't musically inclined, so you could be playing everything wrong, and only your band knows.
That's the scary part. They
They
are
know.
not afraid to be honest either, so that's the hardest part. I have learned that I have to, just be tough, and I need to listen to what they say and take it and use it to be better, but don't dwell on it and shed tears over it 'cause they're just being honest, and they forget by the next service, they don't remember that. They're not thinking about that one note you played wrong, but in the moment, it is terrifying, but
Well, Kurt might be, but that's not
maybe.
no one else remembers. He's probably listening to
Don't
me
give you
say,
the
"Mary Grace, I know every time you messed up."
He knows, he just finds something new to pick on me for.
One thing that you had said was really that your parents got you involved in such a young age. So Matt talks about he remembers when you were 3 or 4 years old and it was a Christmas concert, and before it, he brought you up with him, walked you up there, and you quoted the whole entire chapters of Jesus' birth. You just quoted the whole book, but he's like, "I remember her doing that, and she was probably 3 or 4 years old whenever I helped walk her up there." So we talk about that. What are some ways that you feel like parents could get their children involved at a young age? That's something like you said, you were quoting scriptures. It wasn't just about singing and playing, something that, you have to wait to be asked on. This is something that you could get involved in and that you could do immediately. So what are some things that you can even think of now that parents could be doing for their kids?
So like I said, scriptures was one of the ways, which I know now at our church, our kids' choirs have changed a little bit. They don't volunteer anymore to quote their scriptures, but really, I actually talked to the elementary kids about this, that was to the kids, not the parents. But I told them, whatever you're asked to do it like it's the biggest thing that you're dreaming of doing. And even if it's something so small, nobody's gonna know. You think nobody's gonna notice. But that's kind of where, doors can just open. And the thing is being like a faithful, getting your kids to kids choir or Sunday school, whatever you have going on. Because I know I helped in our kids' church ministry for a long time, doing the music for them. And I noticed the kids who they were worshiping, they, they were well behaved. Because some of them wanted to sing and they were jumping off chairs. It's like, that's not gonna work, you know? But really the ones who always show up and are willing to do whatever they need to do. And then another thing is I definitely have heard Jamie say this actually last night, I think. Um, help them whatever they wanna do. If they wanna sing, play the piano, play the drums, whatever it is. If they wanna read a scripture, um, have them start preparing just like they've been asked to do it already. Because you never know when, they might get called up to sing a solo at 6:30 right before church starts at 7. And if they haven't been working on it, they're probably not gonna do a very good job and they might not get asked again. So, really, I think that was kinda my thing, is I'm not saying I was ready the first time and I did great, but I had been singing all my songs while I was getting ready, all the time. So once I was asked, it wasn't hard because I was already ready for it. So I think that's one thing. And then just, teaching them that um, whatever they do, just that kind of leads to the next thing. Um, so always put the best in the first time, and then doors will keep getting open. So I think the biggest thing is really, being prepared. If they want to sing, let them sing. They'll sing in the car, they'll sing everywhere. And then if they really are interested, put them in lessons where they're learning things that they need to know. Um, but I think that's about it. Is just have them be prepared.
That is something that I say often. I did talk about that last night, and I tell that to my kids all the time. If you want to sing, then you be practicing. Sing like you said, sing like you've already been asked. Sing, and when you're in the choir, if your kids have a kids choir, a children's choir, or, Sunday school, anything like that, even regular church services, if they want to be asked to sing, tell them when the chorus part starts, that's your part. You might not have that microphone. You might not be
Yes.
standing down there right now, but you're still in a position where God sees you and he is going to get the glory. And so sing that chorus. I tell my Evie Joy, she loves to sing. And I always tell her, I'm like, you're not going to be able to be the one with the microphone all the time. And that's okay. And if no one picks you to sing in the microphone, that's okay. You're what you really want to do is you want to sing and as a worship unto God.
Yes.
I'm like, so you get in that choir when it's chorus, That's your
Yeah.
part, girl.
I've-
Sing it.
I've heard Brother Kurt, a lot of choir directors say too, they tell the whole choir, you may not feel like it, but everyone's watching you. You are a worship leader in the choir, even if you're on the back row. If you're the one that's not doing it, you're not worshiping, you're not singing, everyone's gonna notice you, and you don't want to be noticed that way. So, definitely.
True. So no matter what age they are, and if, kids, if they want to sing or, if they're wanting to preach, they need to have some verses. They need to be learning those things, practicing those things. What are some signs that we as parents, or maybe even leaders, maybe there's a youth leader that's listening to this, maybe there's a music leader that's listening to this that's thinking like, how can I look for that hidden talent in really young children? Because you said you were 4, but not only were you 4 whenever you started music, you also now turn around. She's only 17, but she is a full-time really piano teacher. She teaches piano. She teaches Evie piano. And you're teaching those children that are really young as well. What are some things that people can look for to say they really might have something there?
So usually they'll show interest, they'll sing if they want to sing. Um, but sometimes it really can be hidden, We have people who didn't start singing until they were grown. But I do think it's important for parents or leaders or whoever to try to notice, the kids that want to do something, no matter what it really is, they'll be the ones, like we said earlier, they'll be the ones worshiping, they'll be the ones giving it their best. Um, so it's really just a matter of, even I know in choir sometimes, because sometimes you don't know if people can sing or not. They may be the best singer or they may not can carry a tune. So, try to pull them out and have a bunch of people, but even a bunch of kids in a kids choir, have them all practice singing or something. And then, you can kind of see who really wants to do it and who doesn't. But definitely, if a child is interested in it, usually you will kind of be able to tell. I think it's a little harder for like instruments because they can sing all they want, but they may not really play a piano. So I'm trying to think of the best way you would really, because that can be harder, which I know sometimes really probably the best way is if you want your child to play, stick them in lessons and you'll see if they want to stick with it or not. Because actually my sister, um, she's 3 years younger than me, and she started lessons the same time I did. She was 4, maybe close to 5, and she lasted about 2 weeks, and then she was done. So it's not for everyone, but there's a place for everyone. So it's just learning what that is. I know kids who have started piano lessons, and then you know what? They didn't really wanna do that, but they might wanna play the drums, so they go on. And really, it all connects together. A lot of times, people who sing, that it's good for them to learn an instrument 'cause another dynamic. So, I think really just trying them out on different things, um, and sometimes you'll be shocked at how much they may not even know. They may think, "I don't wanna play the piano. I don't wanna sing. I don't wanna do that." But then once they are exposed to it, it's something that they really like.
One thing that talking about, so your Nana, Sister Pomeroy, Mary Grace's grandmother, she taught my girls the piano at first too. And she knows that I have, like Matt and I both have 0 musical talent abilities at all. People be like, that was so off. And I'm like, I had no idea. It sounded fine to me. And so I just literally have no ear for music, and Sister Pomeroy knew that. And she called me one day and I thought, "Oh goodness, this is like a day that my kids didn't have piano lessons." And she called me and I answered and she said, "Sister Jamie, I just wanted to let you know that I do not allow people to waste their money." She said, "So you're not wasting your money by giving it to me for teaching your children piano." She's like, "They actually have an ear for this. They can hear it. They're picking things up. They're being able to play songs." And she said she lets them do lessons for a couple months. It's once a week. They might go through 8 or 10 lessons. And she said she'll give the parents a phone call. And she's like, "I think you're wasting your money. You're dropping them off. They're not very interested. They're not picking it up, or they don't have an ear for it." Or She said, "I'll let them know, like, you're not wasting your money with me." And I got off the phone call feeling like that my kids were Beethoven or something. I was, like, so excited. Told me, I was like, "Sister Pomeroy just said we're not wasting our money, that our kids can hear music." He's like, "Thank you, God." We're, like, praying for our kids to have some sort of musical ability. Ada was kinda more like Abigail. They're tick for tack. They're just the same person pretty much. Um, she did not stick with it. She didn't stay in it. She has a beautiful voice, in my opinion, but she would be so mad I'm even saying that. She's like, "I just can sing in the choir, that's it." But Evie Joy, man, she loves it. She loves piano lessons. She's up there practicing and singing all the time. She gets really aggravated if we don't come up right when she wants us to for her concert that's gonna start. And so I think that, you mentioning putting them in lessons, but don't just put them in lessons and say, do something with this kid, putting them in lessons. And I was so appreciative of that phone call. And so now I wouldn't have even thought of that. And so now thinking of if your kids are in lessons, maybe asking their teacher, do you think they have an ear for this? Or they catch it on? And you can kind of also know by how they're playing at home if they still can't play.
Yes.
How can adults not overlook those gifts and abilities in children? I know that as an adult, it can be easy to think, oh, they're just kids, especially if you know how to play and you've always played this instrument in your church and you don't want some younger person maybe coming up. Surely no one listening to the podcast has ever thought that. But, you may think like, not cultivating that talent in these young people. But I know there are some really talented young people in our church that are really young.
Yes.
And so how can that not be overlooked?
This is actually something I've been thinking a lot about because, like I said, I'm a senior in high school and I'm about to graduate. And we have pretty much our own little music department. We try to copy everything that Brother Kurt and all of them do. Um, but that's something I've been thinking about too, is because when I graduate, who's gonna fill the gap? Like I know that they're they're talented people, but it's a lot talented kids, but it's a lot to be thrown into that position. So I think one way is, even if it feels like, like she said, hopefully anybody wouldn't feel that there's room for everybody in the kingdom of God. So, but, take time and work with them. Let them just sit there. I know I've done this before. I've gone up to the big band practice when I wasn't playing, and I would ask, "Can I just come sit in rehearsal and just see how everything goes?" And some kids may not, think about that, but just kinda keep an eye on those ones who you can tell they have a desire for it. They really wanna sing or play, and really, you know, put time into them. 'Cause really, it's very rewarding. Like she said, I give lessons. Um, it's very rewarding to see one of my students pick something up and, they're so excited because 'cause they've learned Jericho or, some new song, and really it is so rewarding. Even if I think, one day I might be old and they're out there playing, but that would make me so proud, to see someone that I put time into do so good with what they've learned. So that's what, I'm trying to do that as well with younger kids, even though I'm still young. And a lot of times that's when it helps to, have kids choirs and all that because that's just for them. They can do everything. Our kids services, we have a Bible reader that's a kid, um, some musicians sometimes that are younger, the singers, they're doing everything. So really just I know we can think, they're just a kid, they might be hard to work with, they might get nervous and mess up, but really at the end of the day, all of that really doesn't matter. As long as they have a sacrifice from their heart and they're putting work into it and they really just wanna do something for God. Like even the Bible verse says, you have to become like a little child to enter heaven. Um, Little children, like when they do something with their all, they're gonna do it with their all. If they wanna do it, they're gonna do it right. So I think it's important to, put time into them and really help them develop the gifts that God's given them.
I love that you said looking at some of them and thinking, like, they're not gonna do it perfect the first time. and we're not, they're not gonna be up there and they're not gonna do it just like you, but realizing like they have something, they have a sacrifice.
Yes.
They're wanting to bring something to God, and it's not perfect, but they're excited. And a lot of times excitement can go a lot further than
Yeah.
sometimes perfection.
Yes, it can, 'cause if they are so excited about it, they're gonna give it their all. Even if they don't do so good, even if they don't do perfect, they may mess up, but really you can tell when it comes from the heart, and that's better than all the talent in the world, and it's not anointed or anything. So, that's something special that kids have, that they may be embarrassed to get up in front of their friends sometimes, but they're still gonna give it their all.
I think that's an important reason why to use them early as well, just
Yes.
because when you're already, like you said, you were already used to it. Like, I've already been doing this, why would I stop? And so as you get to those more awkward, older, you know,
Yes.
younger teen
You've already
years.
got it down, you're not starting. It's really hard to start someone whenever they're middle school, that age. They're so shy, they don't wanna do anything in front of their friends. They're worried about what people are gonna think about them. So, really, young kids, they really do have it because they're not really scared to do anything.
How do you feel like we could encourage young children to develop their gifts and to use their gifts and to have that confidence to be able to get up there?
Um, I know when I was younger, there were several. I remember I was in 1st grade, and Sister Joy Norris would come to teach the choir at camp meeting, and I'd watch her direct, and I'd be like, "I wanna do that so bad." And then, there are other people, I would look at them and be like, "I wanna write songs like that. I wanna sing like them. I wanna play like them." And really, encouragement goes so far. So far, especially in kids. And I mean, even now, I still need some affirmation sometimes. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job. I don't know what to do. Um, but really, encouraging them to step out and do it. And really push that it's not for your friends, it's not for your parents. Everything that you're doing is for God. And so you want to do anything you can for him. I remember for me, I remember when I was 12, I'd really taken lessons from my grandma my whole life, really. I would stop a little bit and take from my aunt. She would give me lessons some, but really, for the most part, it was my grandmother giving me lessons. And when I was 12, she passed away, and I'll never forget. It was like, I don't know. Of course, I wanted to keep playing, but that's all. I mean, I'd done it since I was 4. It goes back to that again. But I remember it was so hard for me because I would just go sit at the piano, I'd be like all of my memories would just rush back, like, everything I'd ever done. She was there I remember the first time I played organ, I was in 5th grade for chapel service. I played organ. She came to hear me play. She was so proud. All of my recitals, she was the teacher and she was the grandmother, all in one. And I'll never forget, it was so hard, like, and I remember one time I was riding with my dad, and I just broke down crying. I was like, I just don't wanna play anymore. Like, it's too much. I can't do it." And I remember him telling me, that's all she would want you to do, is to keep playing, because that's what she taught you." And I'll never forget one of the ladies in the church, um a saint pillar in the church. She came up to me one time. It's actually happened several times. Different ladies. They would do kingdom builders with my grandmother. They'd have their services on Friday and do stuff for the church. And they'd come up to me and they'd be like, "I just want you to know your grandma will be so proud of you," after I would sing or play or anything. And, that encouragement really meant so much to me because it really was hard. I've thought so many times, I just wanna be done. I don't really wanna do it anymore. And then another thing, this is kinda off the topic of the question, but another kind of full circle moment, um, so like Jamie said, my grandmother gave piano lessons to her girls. There's quite a few I think I had one student, one of my cousins from before, while my Nana was still giving lessons, but, once she passed away, it was just kind of a full circle because a lot of her students came to me, and so it really encouraged me. I gotta carry on her legacy. She gave piano lessons to all these students, so now I can carry on and do what she would want me to do through her students that she already taught.
How old were you whenever you started doing those lessons?
So, my first student, I wanna say I was really young. I'm still learning myself, but I was really learning then. Just kinda I'd learn something, then teach it to her, and then I'd learn something, teach it to her. Um, I was probably 11 or 12, but once I really started doing it, I think I was 14 or 15. I started getting more students, people would come to me, and I did it I would do it every afternoon after school, and then I stopped for a little bit, I took a break, and then more recently, before this school year, or maybe last school year, I was, thinking back to that again, like, I feel that's kind of my duty, to carry that on for her, and I love seeing the little kids, get so excited that they're learning C where C and D is. Um, so then I started doing it really full time every day. I have around 20 students, and I love it.
And you teach that just after school
Just
hours?
after school, yes, about 5 on some days it's like 2, but yes, every day after school.
I would think as a mom, like, "Oh, you're too young," you're 15,
Yeah.
16, even you're 17 years old with 20
Still feel
piano
I
students.
feel sometimes I'm like, "I'm barely older than these kids." I don't know how I'm teaching them.
But she is teaching them every afternoon after school. So that goes back to saying, like, don't overlook the gifts and abilities. You're talking about how to not do that, but as a parent, I mean, the Pomeroys are telling Mary Grace, like, "You're not too young. If you know how to play the piano, you can teach someone how to play the piano," and instilling that in her several things, work ethic, kingdom-minded work, and saying, like, "You can do this no matter what your age is, and no matter what skills or abilities that you feel like you have. If you know it, you can teach it to someone else," and that goes a long way with letting your children realize, I mean, those are invaluable lessons that you're learning along the way just by being able to have this piano lesson business that you have every
And
single.
that's another thing is, I mean, all the time, I feel like I'll go back, I'm like, "I really don't know enough to teach these kids." But really, once you start teaching something or even doing something like you're singing or whatever, um, you learn so much just from that experience. Um, Sometimes, I'll be teaching a student and then I'll think of something I never noticed before, and then I can teach that to them as well. So that's another thing is just getting there and making them do it, having the kids do it, anything. It all adds up all the time, all the practice.
Do you have an age that you feel is ideal, like for a music or singing lessons for kids to start? And maybe some practical ways a parent could work with their child if they don't know someone that's given lessons in their area, some things that they might could do that's like, okay, you can start here.
Yes, so, like I said, I was 4, and now looking back, I'm like, "That is so little," because I do have some 4-year-olds, but I do really like that age because they wanna learn, they're so excited. They come in, I've got all the little Beethoven bear and Mozart mouse, animals that go with their books, and they love it. And that's really a good age, because they're excited. The only thing is I've realized is for those younger kids to not do long lessons because they don't have the attention span at all. So I'll do my normal lessons are 30 minutes, and I'll do maybe 15 for them. And then, but really, I have students up to they've started when they're 10, 11, and they can pick it up too. But, when they're that age, they're already wanting to go straight into the church song, straight into the harder stuff, and you have to, take them back to the little 3 black keys where they're just playing with their fingers, not really knowing what they're doing. So that's why I think the younger it is, the better, because they're not rushed and you can start them out easier and have a better progression. As far as even if you don't have someone to get lessons from, I do like a mix of a book, so like reading notes and stuff, and then also teaching them how to play by ear, play church music and all that. 'Cause I really it all fits hand in hand, and it's so cool when I can show them a connection, that it all really does work together, even though they may not wanna play "Row, row, row your boat." They just wanna go to the fun songs, but it all works together. So as far as the books I use, those, for the most part, can be self-explanatory. Um, so there's a Mozart Mouse book. They're all on Amazon. I send them to everybody. There's a Mozart Mouse book that's fun for the little kids because there's a lesson book that's got songs in it, and then um, like an activity book that goes along with it. The only thing is the parents really have to be into it almost as much as the kids to make sure that they practice, because if you don't practice, you're not going to get anywhere. You can come to lessons every week, but you still may be playing the same song 3 weeks later. So that's one, and then there's another all-in-one course book for older kids. And then I know there's a lot of videos out there that you can watch. Um, It's not the same as having, the one-on-one tailored to exactly what that kid needs, but there are videos you can find out there on how to play simple stuff, but like I said, the one-on-one really helps the kid because they can ask questions that they might wanna know. But then back to, like, the parents helping the kids, if they are in lessons, just making sure, they practice. And sometimes you may think that your kid may not be that into it because they may, wanna stop. Sometimes it really might not be for them. But at the same time, sometimes there's just kind of, a kind of a rut you get in. I've been there plenty of times myself. Um, but once you just have to kinda keep working at it. And then you'll start learning more fun stuff as you the more you practice, the more you learn. I don't think that's what a lot of times kids realize is that, "I'm tired of playing this one thing." But if they just keep putting that effort in, then they'll get to move along faster.
We have a thing. Evie wants to learn, she wants to play, she wants to sing. So I've been able to just threaten her with, "Well, we'll just quit sending you to Mary Grace if you can't practice," because we don't wanna waste her time. So she's been setting her timer and getting her 20 to 30-minute practice.
She has. I can tell. I asked her Tuesday, I said, "You practiced good, didn't you, this week?" She said, "I have been."
She's got a concert going, but her dad's been making her put her headphones on, so it's not all over the house. Reading statistics. It is so important to get kids involved in church things. So important. Music, I feel like, is just an easy involvement.
Yes.
It's like an easy way to get your kids involved in things because it's fun. And, some of the best parts of the service, unless they want to just be the preacher, then they're going to get to learn all the music things. And that's a part of the service that we look at, we watch. Everybody's, you're leading in congregation, but we're watching the musicians, the singers, the choir, all those things.
Yes.
And if you just look at, I did a quick Google search, and I mean, the statistics are 75, 80% on teens that were involved and had some sort of involvement in church where they felt like they belonged, stayed as an adult,
Mhm.
and they didn't go away. So it's obvious that early involvement has a huge impact on belonging and feeling that sense of belonging.
Yes. Um, so I know for me, I've been doing this 13 years. I feel old saying that now. All my life, I'm still young, but it's been a long time. But really, I think, once I stuck with it, um, I knew that was kind of the direction I would go, um, especially from a ministry perspective, because, like you said, that is an easy ministry to get into. But another thing too is I think a lot of times we think they're so talented, but recently I prayed, I may be talented, which I don't feel like I'm that talented, but I may have abilities, but none of that is never going to be as important as having anointing behind it. So, really, the most important thing before you want to sing, before you want to play, which I mean, I was blessed, I've done this that long, since I was little, but especially as I got older, I realized if I want to keep doing this, I've got to have a prayer life. That's the first thing. That's the very top. If I'm in the music ministry, my first ministry is my prayer life. And really once you have a prayer life, it's just like the doors just, they just open. You don't have to try to make yourself involved. Um it really does just open. And even if it's not ministry, you may think you want to be involved in music or in whatever. God may have a completely different plan, but if you have that prayer life, whatever it is, it will be open to you. And then another thing, I said this earlier already, but once I got older, and I really was like, I just don't know if this is my place. Um, I just really pray about it, and I've been doing it since I was little. So why would I stop now? So for me, really early involvement is really what kind of kept me in it, because I think I've already kind of touched on this, but whenever my grandmother did pass away, it kind of really just left a gap that I didn't really know. I lost my teacher. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Um, but once again, I thought I've been doing this how many years? I've already got this many years, 8 years really. So why would I want to stop now? Because I've already done this far. Why would I turn around now? So that's an example where early involvement, if I wouldn't have been doing it all those years, if I just started, I probably would have left it and not continued. But being in it from such a young age, really, it's all I'd ever done. I didn't have any other hobbies but singing and playing the piano. So, you know, there was no reason for me to quit, even though it was hard. But again, like that's the most important thing is just praying that wherever you're supposed to be, that those doors will open. And for me, right now, I mean, who knows? It could change. In 10 years, I might not be. I mean, I know that things will shift soon. Once I graduate, I'll still be obviously very involved in the church music, but a whole part of really me, my sense of belonging has been with our youth band at the school. And I know that once I graduate, I'm not ever going to get that part back. But I know that if I just keep praying and I keep doing what I'm supposed to do, that other doors will open, even if I have no clue right now. It scares me to think about. But I know that if I just keep doing what I'm doing, keep putting forth the effort, whatever I'm asked to do, that every door will open like it needs to.
Well, we need you at the lower campus, so you can just shift your music
Yes,
to the
go to lower campus. Yes.
be the music teacher at the lower campus and then work with our assemblies. If Sister Candy Holmes listens to these every so she's gonna flash onto that and say, yeah, we don't have to worry about Friday assemblies next year. One thing I feel like that I've seen from just involvement in general, and so I feel like that this is also going to go back to early involvement, is when you are involved in something, when you're missing, it's noticeable.
Yes.
So when you're a moving piece and you're a part, it does not matter if your child cannot sing. And this is my opinion, but I feel like it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if my kids can sing or not. They're going to choir. Like, I'm not sitting there trying to listen if they can hit the notes. That doesn't matter to me. But they're going to be at every Sunday night choir. Like, that's not an option for my kids. Some people feel like that's optional. It's just not in the Herndon house. It wasn't when I was growing up, and it's not gonna be now. Like, my kids don't get to pick if they wanna go to choir or not. I've had some of them tell me, I've just got such a bad headache. Well, you get up there and hopefully God will heal you while you're working for him, but you're not going to sit back here because you have a headache. Like, no, I've got some Tylenol. But that's just, honestly, it's just not optional to me to be involved in the work of God and in the kingdom work, because whenever you learn at early ages to make excuses to not be involved, then it's really easy for people not to even notice that you're not there. It's like, oh, Johnny's not here. Well, he doesn't really ever come. So it's not obvious. But if Johnny's not there and he's been there every time, oh, where's Johnny?
Mhm. Yes, and another thing that really ties into that too is, um, if you're always there, even if you can't sing, like you said, it can still open so many doors because people know that you're faithful. God knows you're faithful, and He will reward that, even if it's something you may not like doing. He sees that you are faithful in that little in kids choir or whatever it may be, and that just makes Him, want to open doors for you that you never thought you would walk through. So just being faithful is so much. You're sowing that seed, and it may feel like forever before I can think, little steps that have happened, but I just kept doing it, and then I'd get asked to play for youth service for my first time. Or and then, I'd keep doing that, and then I'd be asked to play for kids choirs. I remember I played for kids choirs for a long time, and I thought, I'm gonna be playing for kids choirs until I'm 80. It's never gonna change. Nothing's ever gonna change. And then, um, I actually told the little kids this. Um, I just kept doing it, practice, practice, kept doing it. And then, I got asked to play aux keys in church, and, just one thing after another. So really that's very important, is just being faithful in that little thing and always showing up and giving it your best.
It reminds me of in Luke 16:10, where it talks about one who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. One who's dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. But when you're faithful in the little things, it really does add up to be the big things. It's just, you're not asked to sing a verse. It's okay. You're in the choir. Be faithful in the choir. Be faithful to showing up. And one thing that you mentioned that's so important is being faithful to prayer. You want God to open doors, and when you want God to open doors, then you want to be faithful to the one who's opening the doors, and that's God.
Yes, that's right.
And he will open those doors. Everything that you have shared, Mary Grace, has been so good. I knew that it would be. So honored to have you added to the podcast, and such a help for parents. I know that anyone listening to this, if you are a parent, just realizing like it's important and not overlooking our kids' age. It's easy. I mean, I'm a mom and I've got young kids, and it's easy to think, oh, this is just what, they just love to sing, they love to play, and just kind of overlooking the things that they're loving instead of looking at it and saying, oh, they love to sing, they love to play. God's given you a talent. Let's be faithful in this little thing. Let's harness this. Let's grow this. Let's make this. I know as a parent, you may think, I'm not going to put them in lessons. It really doesn't matter. They're just kind of playing around or whatever, and that can be a big expense. But I always think of it this way: you're gonna be paying for something. If my children didn't go to Calvary Academy, and if we weren't kingdom-minded, we weren't wanting to do everything for the kingdom, I would be allowing them to take lessons that are way more expensive than any music lessons I've seen, to be in track, cheerleading, football, all those things. I don't want That's not kingdom-minded. I don't want to be paying for things that are not gonna benefit them in for eternity. And music and getting them involved in things that are in the church is going to impact them for eternity. And so I always think about that. I'm like, I will always pay for anything for my kids to be involved in, to better themselves, to create a better sacrifice. If they want to do this unto God, if they want to do this in the kingdom of God, to be able to have a sacrifice that he's worthy of. And if I need to pay to hone that in and to help that, then that's what I want to do. So as a mom, the things that you have shared has just really inspired me even more, encouraged me even more. Don't overlook those abilities. Don't overlook those things, Mary Grace said she was 4 years old. She's 13, 14 years old, teaching all these students, 17 years old, having 20 piano students. That's a lot of piano students to have, especially for your age. And thinking about not overlooking that. Your parents not saying, well, you probably need to be out of school before you can teach, other kids. Saying, no, you can do this now, Mary Grace. Like, you're able to do this, and God's going to help you. He's going to give you the abilities that you need. He's going to strengthen you in that area. And so just not overlooking those things. But everything you've said has been so good and so encouraging. What is one last thing that you would want to leave with the Unashamedly You community today?
This was kind of hard. I was trying to think of, something that ties into everything we talked about, which what you were just saying about, getting your kids lessons versus paying for something else. Just try to remember that whenever you're a parent or a youth leader or whatever, a teacher, that when you're investing in these kids, you're investing in the kingdom of God and its future. So I think it's really important, to not overlook kids' talents and abilities. And also, at the same time, try to help them understand that it's all for God and that they can start a prayer life however young they are. They're never too young. And that's going to make all the difference, is just having a prayer life and being anointed, because talent without anointing is nothing.
That is so true. And thankfully, you definitely have shown both. You're an anointed young lady, and I am so grateful to have you on the podcast and to have you a part of our lives. We're grateful for that. So thank you for being on the podcast and being such an encouragement to all of us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to another episode on the Unashamedly You podcast. I pray that this podcast has encouraged and inspired you to step out and become all that God has in store for you. Go be unashamedly you.